At 74, Michael Keaton speaks out about turning down the role of Batman. Most people think Michael Keaton walked away from Batman because the money wasn't good enough. I believed that for years too. Then I started digging into what really happened. And honestly, it made me see his career in a completely different way. The strange part is, this wasn't just one decision. It happened twice. Once when he chose to leave Batman at the height of its success, and again decades later when Hollywood invited him back, only to change the story all over again. Looking at both moments together, you start to realize they were never really about Batman at all. They were about one actor refusing to betray the character he believed he had created. That's what surprised me the most. Because in an industry where almost everyone says yes, Michael Keaton built a career around knowing exactly when to say no. Before anyone called him Batman, before he was standing on rooftops wearing a cape, he was simply Michael John Douglas, growing up outside Pittsburgh as one of 7 children. There wasn't anything glamorous about those early years. His father worked for the government. His mother kept the family together. Money wasn't overflowing. But there was something else in that house that mattered just as much: humor. Keaton has often said making people laugh became almost second nature. It wasn't some grand career plan. It was just who he was. Eventually, he started trying stand-up comedy around Pittsburgh. It wasn't glamorous either. He drove taxis, worked in a warehouse handling film equipment, took whatever jobs paid the bills while chasing auditions whenever he could. And before Hollywood even knew his face, he had already run into his first obstacle. There was already a famous actor named Michael Douglas. The Screen Actors Guild wouldn't allow 2 actors to use the same professional name, so he looked around for another one. No elaborate branding strategy, no dramatic reinvention. He simply picked Michael Keaton. That's it. Funny enough, one of the most recognizable names in Hollywood exists because someone else got there first. His first real break arrived with Night Shift in 1982. Even getting that opportunity wasn't easy. The studio had serious doubts. Some executives weren't convinced he belonged in the movie at all. It took director Ron Howard and producer Brian Grazer pushing hard behind the scenes before Keaton finally got the role. I always find stories like that fascinating. People assume successful careers begin with confidence from everyone involved. Most don't. Sometimes one person believes in you while 10 others are ready to replace you. For Keaton, that became a pattern. Then came Mr. Mom. On paper, it looked like a simple comedy, but underneath, it was asking a question America wasn't really discussing yet. What happens when the husband stays home while the wife becomes the breadwinner? Today, that idea barely raises eyebrows. Back in 1983, it was surprisingly fresh. Keaton loved the script immediately. In fact, he laughed so hard reading it that he later joked he nearly smacked his head against the bed. He even helped reshape parts of the screenplay after writer John Hughes stepped away during production. The film became a hit. Suddenly, everyone knew Michael Keaton as the funny guy. And that's exactly where the problem started. Hollywood has a habit of putting actors inside tiny boxes. Comedy actor, action star, romantic lead. Once you're inside one of those boxes, getting out becomes incredibly difficult. Keaton understood that better than anyone. So instead of chasing another comedy, he made a move almost nobody expected. He accepted clean and sober. There were almost no jokes, no goofy smiles, no lovable dad. Instead, he played a cocaine addict whose entire life was built on lies. It wasn't flashy acting. It was uncomfortable, quiet, painfully human. Rather than trying to imitate addiction, Keaton spent time speaking with people who had actually lived through it. He searched for something deeper. What was this man trying to escape? What did he need every morning before he even got out of bed? That became his process. Not memorizing lines, not showing emotions, finding the person underneath everything. Years later, he'd describe it with a phrase he used throughout his career. "Where's the cheese?" It sounds funny at first, but what he meant was simple. Every character wakes up chasing something. Love, revenge, acceptance, control. Find that, and everything else starts making sense.